Today I'm going to be sharing with you some things that you probably don't want to hear, but you need to hear, and things that aren't necessarily shared online a lot about homeschooling and the realities of it. I am a second generation homeschooler, and I am very blessed to have had a mother who did the hard work and was a really good mother and homeschooling parent. And I'm going to share with you the things that I've learned from that and the things that I've learned in my homeschool journey to date. Hello, I'm Christine, a homeschooling mom of 3 kids. I've been homeschooling for 6 years, and I was homeschooled myself, and I love homeschooling and all the things. I'm so happy to have you here. And if you want to hear real things about homeschooling, but also encouragement, because I'm not going to be just sitting here and telling you that you're a terrible parent. No, that's not it at all. I absolutely want to equip you with hopefully the tools you need to do even better in your homeschooling, but also encourage you that there is grace to be found and that the Lord loves you and He loves your kids. Then this is a space for you, and I would love for you to subscribe and to hang around. My first point is that homeschooling does not fix character issues in your kids. Homeschooling is in and of itself is not some magic cure-all for bad behavior. And I think sometimes that is how people view it. Now, I do recognize that it absolutely will help with some behavior issues. So for instance, if your child is not being academically challenged at school enough, so they're acting up in class because they're bored, I understand those situations. But if you have a child who is just behaving poorly because their character needs to be worked on, homeschooling them is not automatically going to fix that. That is a parenting thing, and we too often compartmentalize things where we say this is homeschooling and this is parenting, when actually they all go together. Like, they're very much entwined, and they're just part of each other. Like, I don't have a teacher hat and a mom hat. I'm just mom. And I happen to teach them. But just like I potty trained them and taught them how to tie their shoelaces, now I'm teaching them math and reading. It's just a part of my parenting. And part of that is training their character and working on things with them. But homeschooling in and of itself is not going to just magically fix that. So some people I see it, they get frustrated because they brought their child home from school because of whatever issue, and now they're homeschooling them and their child's refusing to do their work, and they thought that by homeschooling them, it would just magically fix that. It doesn't. It doesn't. You have to actually parent them. You have to actually work through the character issues, and that is often messy and not fun, and hard work, and it's hard on your heart as a parent, but it has to be done. And homeschooling in and of itself is not going to magically fix that. If homeschooling fixed character issues, all homeschooled children would just be little angels. And let me tell you, they're not. We cannot pit homeschool kids up against public school kids, because at the end of the day, then you're just taking the parenting factor out of it. And that actually is the largest influencing factor. It's how you parent your children. My husband was public schooled his entire life, and I think he's a really good man and a man of strong character because he had parents who were very intentional about raising him well. And then I have met homeschool families whose parents are like checked out and their kids' behavior is terrible. And that's not fair on the kids because it's not their problem. It's the way that they're being parented. So just keep that in mind, that it's not a magic cure-all. You actually still have to work really hard as a parent to raise your kids well. Number 2, and this is probably something that I've always believed this because my mother has always like instilled it into me, and that is that discipline trumps motivation. Every time, hands down, I get asked this question fairly regularly. How do you maintain the motivation to homeschool? How do you homeschool when you don't feel motivated? The reality is I don't depend on my motivation to homeschool my children, because that's not what it's about. It's not about whether I feel like doing it or not. I don't feel like cooking them dinner most nights of the week, but I do it because it is a requirement. They need to be fed. Their education is really important, and my motivation as to how I feel about doing it, like, just doesn't even come into the equation. It needs to be done. It doesn't matter if I feel like doing it or not. So if that is your perspective, that your whole attitude towards homeschooling is based on your level of motivation, that is something you're going to have to work on, because motivation should not factor into it. Now, I do agree that having things in your homeschool that are enjoyable and pleasant is definitely going to help, and it definitely builds your motivation. But when you are disciplined, the motivation tends to come. For instance, decluttering. Okay, I don't really like I like to have a decluttered house, but I don't necessarily enjoy the process of decluttering. But once I actually begin, the motivation builds on itself. But the beginning is the part where you have to be disciplined. So that is what I would encourage you with. Discipline trumps motivation. You're going to be so much more successful with your homeschooling and being consistent when it is a disciplined habit that you have instilled in your home. It is not something that we guess at. My kids don't like wake up in the morning and say, are we doing school today? They know Monday through Thursday we have school. Sometime on Fridays we have to do a little bit of extra. But they know Monday through Thursday is school unless there's a public holiday in there. On Friday, we have cleanup. That is when we clean our house. They just know, they've come to know and expect it. There is less pushback because they know that that is the expectation of them. And if you're not giving that to your children, you're making your job harder because they are going to push back because they don't know what to expect either. So give yourself the gift of discipline. It takes work, but just don't let it be an option in your mind whether you feel like homeschooling or not today, because I will tell you that usually when you don't feel like it, you're not going to do it. And then that's not helpful to anyone. My next point, number 3, and honestly, this is a very cliche term, but it is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I don't care what homeschooling method you use, whether you are an unschooler or a traditional homeschooler, whatever end of the spectrum you are on, if you do not have a plan and a clear goal as to the purpose of your homeschooling, you're going to fail at it. You're going to fail your children at it. And I know that can sound really harsh, but it is the reality of it. I know of a couple of people who do unschooling very intentionally and very well. And let me just tell you, I think it takes more work than traditional homeschooling. Those people have clear goals. They have a clear path that they want their children to follow, and they then curate everything according to that. There are other homeschoolers that I know of who do not have clear purpose or goal, and they bend with the wind depending on how they're feeling. And from what I have read, being a second generation homeschooler, I know a lot of homeschoolers who are very, very happy with their homeschooling experience and are now homeschooling their kids, which is my case. The ones who have great resentment for their families, and let me just tell you, there's Reddit threads about them. I have not read them personally, all of the Reddit threads, but for the few conversations I have seen, the ones who have resentment and are angry about their experience are the ones whose parents checked out, who were not disciplined, who were not consistent, who did not give them the tools that they needed to be equipped to walk into whatever life they want in their adult years. And that is what it comes down to. So whatever your homeschool method, if you want to do well and you want to do right by your children, you need to have a plan. You need to have a goal. And it doesn't mean that your days have to be hyper scheduled or inflexible or anything like that. But if you don't have a goal or a purpose, your days are going to be listless and your kids are not going to have any consistency and forward trajectory. So even in the most unstructured of homes, if you still have a plan and a purpose, you're going to do well, and your kids are going to do well because you have like a desired outlook on things. Please, whatever type of homeschool you want to have, just make sure that you have a plan and a goal because it really is a make or break situation. Point number 4, no one is going to save you. This is a harsh reality, but it is reality. Your homeschool is a choice that you've made for your children. And when it is hard, there is no one who's going to step in and save the day for you. You might have good support systems in place, but ultimately it is on your shoulders. This is your responsibility. These are your children. And it is up to you to do the hard work to make sure that you're giving them the education that they deserve. So if things are not working well in your homeschool, it is up to you to stop and figure out how to change things and how to make them better. And there's no point in becoming a victim and blaming your circumstances for whatever situation you're in as far as your homeschooling goes, because that's not going to help anybody. The only way that you're going to move forward is by just honestly taking responsibility for it. And I know that there are seasons that are hard. We've been in a hard season, but that is up to me to work through. And for me, it's just as much working on my character and my discipline as it is my children's. And so you cannot have a victim mentality when it comes to this. There is no one who's going to swoop in and save the day and be like, okay, now everything's fixed and it's magical. And let me just tell you, it's never all going to be fixed and magical. Homeschooling can be full of joy and such a blessing. And I'm going to talk about that in my next point, but there's always going to be hard parts of it. And if we're just like seeking after this illusion of perfection in our homeschool days, we are never going to be satisfied, and that is going to trickle down to our children, and they're going to feel that as well. So instead of having this idea of this honestly impossible idea of homeschooling, we need to work with what we have, and we need to be thankful for what we have and count our blessings, and never sit there thinking, oh, woe is me, like I'm in this situation and it's so hard. And no, let's change our attitudes when it comes to that, because this is another thing I will say, and I know it ruffles feathers, homeschooling is a privilege. Guys, I know it's a sacrifice, but that doesn't exempt it from also being a privilege. Not everyone can homeschool. And for those who are like, oh, well, if you just make this choice or you cut back on that, guys, it's illegal. It's illegal in so many countries. And there are situations in relationships where it's not going to work. And we need to still recognize what a privilege it is that we get to be there for our kids like we are. Privileges are not without hardships, and it is just silly to think that. So hard things are not bad things. Privileges are not without sacrifice. So we can acknowledge both. There's room for both of them. So yeah, no one's going to save you. You've got to do the work, but also you can lean on your support system. You can go online and glean knowledge from other homeschool moms, but you're the one who has to put it into practice. I mean, you can watch homeschool YouTube videos, forever and find all these helpful tips, but unless you're actually doing the work and putting it into action, it's not going to be fruitful. And then finally, my final point, and this may sound really discouraging, but that is not my intention. I'm definitely going to pair it with encouragement for you. That is that homeschooling is hard. And that's just reality. I think that social media is selling it as this easy, if you just pull your kids out of school and you just do nature study together, then they're going to have this amazing education and your relationships are going to be fixed and all their learning difficulties are going to be solved, and it's just going to be this magical experience. And that's just not reality. Homeschooling is hard because all of the worthwhile things in life are. They're the things you have to work for, and that doesn't mean that they're bad. So just about every single day of our homeschooling, I would say, is hard in one way or another, whether it comes with backlash from my kids because they're not happy about having to do something, whether it's they're not understanding a concept and I have to figure out a different way to get through that, or one of the kids is sick or I'm sick. There's always some aspect to it that is hard, but I can also tell you that I am so grateful for it every single day. It is such a joy and a privilege to teach my children every single day, to have those hard opportunities to work on those character issues that I wouldn't otherwise get if they weren't with me, to delve into topics that we love and enjoy, to build a culture in our family of inside jokes based on books that we've read together and poems that we've studied and history topics that we've delved into. That is a privilege and a joy, but it's also really hard because parenting is hard. There is no manual that gets handed to you with all the answers because every child is different, every family is different, every situation is unique. But that does not mean that it is not worth the sacrifice. It is worth it every single day. So if you are a homeschool mom sitting there feeling so discouraged because it's just hard every day and you don't enjoy aspects of it, there's nothing wrong with you. You're doing it right. That is actually how it is. And I don't want you to give up on homeschooling because you've been sold this false idea of what homeschooling is like. When my mom finished homeschooling all 4 of us kids, you know what her response was at the end of it? It was phew, because it was hard work and she was over it. By the time she had gone through it with 4 kids, she was ready to be done. But that doesn't mean that she regrets any of it. I know that she's so thankful she got that opportunity to do that with us. So let's stop believing the lie that hard means bad, or that if it's hard, we're doing something wrong. That's just not the case. I also don't want you to believe that homeschooling is hard and a challenge and that there's no joy to be found in it, because the two are not mutually exclusive. They actually work together really, really well. And I want to encourage you in that. So these are things I feel very strongly and passionately about, and I really want homeschool moms to know in their souls that these are truths. And homeschooling and parenting is such a high calling, and I'm so grateful for it. And I hope that you feel encouraged by these points and not discouraged. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments on your thoughts about these things. If there are any truths that you feel in your soul and you just want to share with the world, leave those in the comments below so we can talk about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
What if the world had more of your smile? What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach every